For me personally, it definitely feels, or I know that it is, I would say reallocating, but reallocating and flushing some of that money into the community, flushing it into getting police therapy, because they do see a lot of things. They do see things that most people don't. And so, how can you respectively send someone who is traumatized or who has drinking problems or who has never talked to anybody about what they've gone through or what they've seen to release some of that tension? So, when they can go to a situation to de escalate it, they have the proper tools to do so. I personally think that they should be responsible for what they do. So, for instance, they should pay into a security program. So if something were to happen, now the police is held liable, because the city of Atlanta does not hold their police officers liable. Coming from someone who was actually assaulted by a police officer, someone spoke on the panel earlier about getting the criminals off the street. Well, that's a criminal and he's still on the street because of the laws that are put in place to protect the police officers. So if there is an insurance policy that they pay into, once you assault someone and you change their life forever and they're now traumatized beyond measure, you have to pay for that. You can no longer be a police officer. You can no longer serve and quote unquote protect. So defunding the police is more than just taking the money from them. It's putting that money into people like me who didn't have any resources to get the help that I needed after someone that I called to serve and protect did the absolute opposite.
Eric, I'll let you respond to that, because a lot of people who want the police defunded, they also ask for consequences when it comes to the police. There are absolutely no consequences that police officers face.
Right.
First of all, I'll say to Questions with Cree, I apologize for whatever experience that you had with law enforcement that gave you that trauma. And I think that's where it starts. We need to take ownership of where we are as law enforcement and basically recognize with a look in the mirror of what we have done to create this world of distrust and a lack of communication. And it starts with number one, saying, you know what, I apologize to you and to those others, because we haven't been doing it right all along. When we talk about reallocating funds, I think it was Corey that said it. We need to replace those, and Reverend Anderson, we need to replace those with true resources. I remember back in the 90s, in the early 90s, I used to be able to call social services when I came across a non-criminal family incident. And you know what they'd tell me? Hey, we'll be there in 30 or 45 minutes. And then they would show up and we would hand it off. Remember back in the 90s, being able to go to a mental health call and being able to go to drop the people off. Those resources have disappeared for us. We are now the only ones answering the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve. We're the only 365 24/7. So I think that's how we got to this place where we're handling all these calls. But in terms of accountability, you're absolutely right. If a police officer, sheriff deputy does something wrong, does something illegal, does something immoral, criminal, they should be held accountable. And if we do that, then that is how we're going to start fixing things. Right now, the national standard on lethal force is I could. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it basically becomes down to I can say I feared for my life. It's not a standard of I absolutely had to, it was absolutely necessary, there was no other option. So accountability is huge. But again, I'm going to keep saying this, that goes to our criminal justice system with our district attorney's offices and our judges and so forth, as well as the policies internally within law enforcement.